Hi friends, in this video we are going to review partial quotients and we're going to solve a 3-digit divided by a 1-digit problem. So to get started we have to draw our division bar. So our partial quotients division bar looks like a really big 7. So let's draw our jumbo 7. Alright, now that we have our division bar drawn, we can set it up. So to set it up, our dividend goes inside the division bar. So that means 593, our dividend is going to go inside the division bar. Our divisor of 4 goes on the outer left side of our division bar. Now we can get started and we have the same step, the same 3 division steps that we've been using. So divide, multiply, and subtract, and then we have to keep repeating that step until we get our remainder or until we get to 0, and then our final division step is to add it all together. So let's get started with the first step, which is divide. So I always like to have a thought bubble. I'm going to think about how many groups of 4 I should use to get as close to my dividend of 593 as I can. So should I use 5 groups of 4, 10 groups of 4, or 100 groups of 4? I'm going to use 100 groups of 4 because that's 400, and that's going to get me really close. So I'm going to write 100 on the right side of my division bar as my first partial quotient. My next step is to multiply, and when we multiply, we always multiply the divisor multiplied by the most recent partial quotient we've written on the right side. So for this step, I'm going to do 4 times 100, which is 400. Our next step is to subtract. 3 minus 0 is 3, 9 minus 0 is 9, and 5 minus 4 is 1. So I'm still left with 193. That means I need to divide again. So I'm going to go back to my first step, which is divide. And I'm going to ask myself, should I use 5 groups of 4, 10 groups of 4, or 100 groups of 4? I can't use 100 groups of 4 because that's 400. That's too much. But 10 groups of 4 is only 40. So I'm going to use a multiple of 10 to see if I can get closer to 193. So 10 groups of 4 would be 40. 20 groups of 4 would be 80. 30 groups of 4 would be 120. Let's get closer. 40 groups of 4 would be 160. And 50 groups of 4, well, that would be 200. And that's too much. So let's use 40 more groups of 4. So I'm going to write 40 as my second partial quotient. My next step is to multiply. So I'm going to multiply 4 times 40, which gives me 160. Next up, we subtract. 3 minus 0 is 3, 9 minus 6 is 3, and 1 minus 1 is 0. So I'm just left with 33. But since 33 is still larger than my divisor of 4, that means I have to keep dividing. So I'm going to go back to step 1, which is divide. And I'm going to use my basic facts to try to think of what I can multiply 4 by to get really close to 33 without going over. So I'm actually just going to skip count by 4. So let's see. Let me just draw a bar here. All right, so we have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. We're getting closer. 28, 32, and then 36, which would be too big. So that means I can use the fact 4 times 8 equals 32 to help me. That means I can get 8 more groups of 4 out of 33. So let's use 8 as our next partial quotient. So I'm going to write 8 as my third partial quotient. Now I'm going to multiply 4 times 8, which is 32. And then I'm going to subtract, and I'm going to be left over with just 1. And since 1 is less than my divisor of 4, 1 is my remainder. So I like to circle my remainder. And that means it's time for the final division step. Do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do. So our final division step is always to add all of our partial quotients together to get our total quotient. So 0, 0, and 8, that equals 8. 0 plus 4 equals 4. 1 plus nothing equals 1. But I need to bring my remainder over. That's its sidekick, remainder 1. So that means my quotient is 148, remainder 1. And remember, this is our quotient, our queen quotient. And the queen always sits on top of her throne. So we're going to move our quotient to the top of the division bar. So we're going to write our quotient up here of 148, remainder 1. I like to draw a crown to remind me sometimes that this is where the queen, our queen quotient, will sit. So that means, friends, that our final answer is 148, remainder 1 to the problem 593 divided by 4. Thanks for watching.